Jeffrey Epstein is dead, but he is back in the news, and Donald Trump is digging himself a deeper and deeper hole as this scandal just metastasizes really beyond recognition. Hi, this is Marc Elias, founder of Democracy Docket, and I was on with Nicolle Wallace discussing what else? The Jeffrey Epstein scandal and the way in which Donald Trump has really lost control of the narrative around this scandal. We are watching day by day, sometimes like hour by hour, frankly, as Donald Trump has tried to pivot this from the place in which they were only a week ago, which was Jeffrey Epstein. Who was he? Files? There aren't files. To there are files, and they were basically assembled by Democrats, and they were written by Democrats, so you can't believe any of them. To Jeffrey Epstein wasn't really much of a factor, and anyone who's paying attention to them was never really my supporter anyway. And that's the big escalation that took place earlier today, when he essentially said, if you continue to pay attention to Jeffrey Epstein and you care about this, then you were never really one of my loyal followers, and basically go pound sand. You will see from this clip, I think we are at a very pivotal moment. I think that Donald Trump's only way out from his vantage point, doesn't mean he'll pull it off, doesn't mean he'll succeed, but I think the way he thinks he gets out of this is by pivoting further into this narrative that Democrats, his political enemies, are somehow responsible for forging or creating or writing or whatever the Epstein files. Now, it is a preposterous theory. I mean, these files are going to include transcripts of interviews and things compiled by various FBI agents and subpoenaed from various places. So, it's a preposterous theory. But this is where Donald Trump has gone steadily since his big tweet, his big social media post on Saturday, and it's what he is doubling and tripling down on as recently as earlier today. Now, I've written another extensive piece about this on Democracy Docket. We have put these on the website. We have dropped these from being behind a paywall so that everyone can be keeping on top of this breaking coverage of this growing scandal that is enveloping Donald Trump, and what it will mean going forward for the rule of law, what it will mean going forward from democracy. And you can access that now on the website, but I would encourage you to also become a subscriber to Democracy Docket's newsletters. There are free options, there are premium options. The links are above and in the description below. But what I'm going to do now is show you the discussion that I and some others had with Nicolle Wallace, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss this some more.
Marc Elias, does it feel any different to you? Do you feel like more people are starting to stand up?
I wish more people were standing up. I mean, what's hard to gauge is whether fewer people are refusing to stand up, or it is that there are just fewer people generally in this fight. But do I feel like there are more people willing to stand up? Sure. The baseball coach was willing to stand up. You see people at these outrageous raids willing to stand up. You see ordinary Americans willing to stand up. Are we seeing more law firms stand up? No. Are we seeing more business leaders stand up? No. Are we seeing owners of multi-billion-dollar media corporations who want to sell them stand up? No. What's really interesting, Nicolle, and I think you've covered this a lot. What's interesting is that the people who have the most, the people who have the resources stand up the most, have actually turned out to be the most timid, and the people who have the most to lose have been the most heroic.
Yeah. What is it about this moment where Trump's political weaknesses have been laid bare? I mean, today, Donald Trump attacked his own supporters, basically called them, I don't know what the words are, I want to say weak and lame, and if it wasn't weak and lame, it rhymes with weak and lame, for focusing on a conspiracy he himself peddled, and the people that populate his government peddled for years and years. What does it say to you that he's now going after his own base of supporters?
Look, I think you got it exactly right in the question you asked Senator Booker. I don't think there has been any time since Donald Trump's first term when he was president that he has completely lost control of his base. He's completely lost control of his narrative. I mean, you could at the same time that he is attacking his supporters in the same vitriolic language that he uses normally to attack Democrats, at the same time he's doing that, Nicolle, he is not moving key parts of the MAGA movement in his direction, right? You still have Tucker Carlson, I think, set to do a expose on Epstein. You know, as of yesterday, you still had Steve Bannon having a pollster on talking about how Epstein could be Donald Trump's Afghanistan. You still have other right-wing figures who are not going along with this. So it's a very, very unusual situation we find ourselves in. But I also think it's a very dangerous situation because I think Donald Trump is going to have to escalate to something much more dramatic. I think that's going to be targeting his political opponents for criminal prosecution. And I think that's how he's going to look to turn the narrative around.
Well, he did that already. I mean, he announced investigations into Comey and Brennan. And you still have Megyn Kelly wrestling back the backbone or the cojones, if you will, from one of the other guys. I don't know. I think it was Charlie Kirk. I mean, he's tried that and it hasn't worked, Mark.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not worked to date, but I am mindful, and I hate to say that I watch, you know, Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer and the right wing media ecosystem. But what's interesting is that several people in that sphere are talking about that Donald Trump will appoint a special counsel to look into Democrats, and that part of that special counsel will also look into the Epstein files. And the reason why that has some plausibility from Donald Trump's standpoint is, number one, you see he's already saying that these documents were created by Democrats, which is an utter lie. But that's where he's going. So it gives him the pretense to say, look, I want them to look into the Russia investigation, which was Democratic manufactured. I want you to look into the 2020 election, which was Democrats, and I want you to look into this, which is Democrats. And then he appoints some completely farcical figure to be the special counsel, and it kind of like he might think gets him out of jail free. All of it would be nonsense, and I don't think it'll work, by the way. Like, I don't think his base would go along with it, but I think that may be what's coming.
Marc Elias, let me read you one more from this Media Matters report of the calls. This is from an InfoWars caller who said he was, quote, at January 6th and said Donald Trump, quote, saying we need to forget about Epstein suggests, quote, he is a part of this whole system. He also said Pam Bondi, quote, covered up Epstein. These are folks who went to, in this instance, this is a caller who was, quote, in his telling at January 6th, but feels betrayed by this, not about the criminal exposure he may have faced for being there that day. That's how big this is in Trump's base. Yeah,
absolutely. And what we need to recognize is that Donald Trump has already made the biggest concession that he is going to make, and it may be the one that is ultimately going to lead to this completely unraveling for him. And that is, he went from a posture of there are no Epstein files. Remember, that is where Pam Bondi was like last week, right? It is, we've released what there is. There was nothing ever on my desk. That was something different, and like there is nothing to see. And on Saturday, something caused him. Something happened, and I don't know what it is. Like, we could speculate, maybe involving Bongino being unhappy, maybe something else. Who the hell knows? But something happened that he pivoted to, oh, no, there are Epstein files. It's just the Epstein files were written by Democrats. And ever since then, that is the direction that he has had to go. He has had to admit that there are these files that he is not releasing. You know, he sort of earlier today said, well, they can release credible evidence, but not the made up evidence, right? So he is now pivoted to this place in which he and his administration has to admit there is stuff they are not releasing. And they have to bank on the fact that they can convince people that the reason why they can't release it is because it was somehow made up and written by a bunch of Democrats. And that is a implausible, even by implausibility standards, and I think one that his base will not buy. But also, I think they'll say, well, but even if they're made up by Democrats, like that's even more reason why they should be released. And so I think he has trapped himself in this place where he has acknowledged their existence and he has to now try to defend the ground. That's why I think this thing about special counsel is so important, because if he names a nonsensical person as special counsel, that special counsel can then say, I've taken possession of the files and they can't be released because I'm investigating. And that's a way out, and a way in which he then merges the Epstein thing with the elections and the Russia and everything else, and maybe tries to put this genie back in a bottle. I would defer to Angelo and Sarah whether that will work, but I think that's where we're going. All right, so that was the discussion. And look, you know, there isn't any guarantee this works out. Like, in the end, Donald Trump could regain his footing. And he could not only regain his footing, he could regain his footing by essentially appointing some complete chucklehead as a special counsel with a charge to look into all things Democrats, right? Like, it could begin with, the 2016 Clinton campaign. It could go through, the rehashing the John Durham investigation, which was a witch hunt unto itself, involving investigating the FBI. And then it could proceed through whatever is in his addled brain, Donald Trump's addled brain, about his first term. Then, of course, he has promised to look at the 2020 election, which he lost, but which he continues to spread lies and disinformation about through his election denialism. He's suggested that maybe the special counsel would look at January 6th. God knows what that would mean. And then, of course, he's also suggested that he wants an investigation into the 2024 election, which is very confusing since he actually won that election. And it is possible that he throws into that mix this Epstein thing as a way both to bury it, because after all, if there's a special counsel looking at it, the files can't be released, but also to weaponize it along the lines that he is suggesting, as ridiculous as it is. I mean, as ridiculous as it is to say that somehow the Epstein files are a Democratic Party creation or the creation of the Biden administration. Like, you could imagine any number of the sycophants around Donald Trump that would do his bidding as far as they could, and the trouble that they could cause. So we're at a very volatile moment in democracy. There are no guarantees, like I said, that this turns out one way or the other. But the most important thing is that you stay up to date. And I started Democracy Docket in 2020 to be a pro-democracy, unafraid, unapologetic source for news, information, and analysis about everything that is happening to democracy, what's happening in the courts, what's happening with the rule of law, and certainly what is happening right now in this administration has been front and center. You have seen the Democracy Docket team expand dramatically. It now has more than 20 members of that team. And so if you want to take advantage of their work and support their efforts, become a subscriber right now. You will get good, accurate, unapologetic, unafraid information. No both sides, no corporate bosses, no investors threatening that if we don't shade the coverage in the way that the billionaires like, they'll pull funding. No, it is funded by you and by readers like you. So again, there are free options, there are premium options. Most importantly, stay informed, become a subscriber today. And also, before you go, click on the little button right in front of you that says subscribe, so that you will make sure you also get videos from the Democracy Docket team. Thanks. I'll see you next time.